At 8:14 a.m., my phone lit up with the message that snapped the last thread of my childhood. We changed all the locks on the front door and the gate code. We don't trust you anymore. No argument, no context, just a digital eviction from the woman who once called me her greatest blessing. I stared at the screen until my hands stopped trembling, then typed back, noted. Clever move. But you missed something. Before I explain what unfolded that morning, tell me where you're listening from. So I know I'm not alone in being cut off by my own blood. I used to believe love was measured by how much you gave, how many problems you handled before anyone had to voice them. In my family, that kind of love kept the electricity on, the mortgage paid, and the silence untouched. My name is Taylor Robinette, 31, financial manager in Chicago. And for 4 years, I'd been shelling out nearly $5,000 a month for a home I didn't even live in. Every bill, every repair, every temporary favor carried my signature. Mom insisted it was family teamwork. Dad framed it as doing the right thing. I called it survival. My mother, Elizabeth, had a talent for turning guilt into a form of currency. Every gentle sentence came wrapped in warmth, but there was always a price tag tucked inside. You know, honey, the roof still leaks. It's so hard watching your father try to fix it. Translation: send money. My sister Lindsay, 34, perfected the art of helplessness like it was a competitive sport. 2 kids, endless crises, and a tone that made saying no feel heartless. And my father, Robert, 62, the peacekeeper who kept peace by staying silent. He never defended me, never put a stop to anything. When I spotted a strange credit inquiry under my name once, he waved it off. System glitch, he'd said. And I let myself believe him. I kept telling myself I was helping, that good daughters stepped in. I was 27 when I co-signed the mortgage, still naive enough to think love meant doing the heavy lifting. Mom said that's what trust looked like in a family. So I paid the mortgage. I covered property taxes, insurance, even the internet so Dad could watch sports. When Lindsay's car broke down, I paid for the repairs for the kids' safety. When she overdrafted her account, I sent the money before she could even ask. I kept spreadsheets for every payment entries I labeled as temporary. That word used to make me feel safe, like I had the option to stop whenever I wanted. But temporary stretches when you're the only one carrying the load. The house became theirs. The debt remained mine. Still, I clung to the belief that effort could earn affection. Every time Mom said, "You're keeping this family afloat," I mistook it for love. Every time she praised Lindsay publicly for sacrifice, I swallowed the sting. It took me years to understand that trust in our house didn't mean protection. It meant silence. Now, sitting alone in my apartment, staring at her message, I finally understood what she'd really taught me. Family, in her language, wasn't about belonging. It was about who footed the bills. It all began with a Facebook post. I was waiting in my car outside a grocery pickup when the algorithm slapped it onto my screen. My parents and Lindsay standing proudly on the porch of the house I'd been paying for. The caption read, "So proud of our daughter for building a home we can all share." My mother held a little wooden sign that read, "Home Sweet Home." A gift from Lindsay. I reread the caption 5 times, waiting for my name to appear. It never did. The comments poured in like confetti. "She's incredible. You raised such a strong daughter, Lindsay. She's the backbone of your family." I sat there motionless, my hand hovering on the steering wheel, afraid that any movement would shatter whatever was keeping me upright. Somewhere between the emojis and applause, it hit me, they weren't just erasing me. They'd rewritten the entire story. 2 days later, my phone rang. A cheerful bank representative. "Hi, Miss Robinette, calling to confirm a request to update the primary contact for your mortgage." My stomach dropped. "To who?" "A Miss Lindsay Carson," she said. "The documents are still being verified." I hung up without responding. The pen slipped from my hand, drawing a streak of ink across my palm. That night, I checked my account and saw it instantly. $2,400 missing. A transfer to an emergency card I'd once shared with Lindsay. I texted her, "Did you use my card again?" 10 minutes later, "Don't make it a thing, Tay. The kids needed shoes." Another ping, Mom, honey, Lindsay's just having a hard time. Let's not start a war over a few dollars. A few dollars. I stared at those words until they blurred. It was never about the money. It was about what it revealed. When Lindsay needed help, it was urgent. When I needed fairness, it was annoying. Later that same night, my phone buzzed again, this time, the family group chat. They'd renamed the chat Family Circle. Someone sent a meme of a guy handing over his wallet with the caption, "Big sponsor energy." My cousin tagged me. Dad chimed in, "Keep the donor happy." I left the group. They added me back with balloons. I left again. That time, I blocked every one of them. The following weekend, I drove over to mow the lawn. Paying the landscaper made no sense anymore. Mom used to say the whole yard smelled thick with cut grass. When I paused for water, voices floated through the open kitchen window, my mother's low and satisfied, Lindsay's bright and smug. "Did you see her face when Aunt Karen brought up the deed?" Lindsay snickered. Mom answered, quiet but thrilled, "It's almost finished. Once the paperwork clears, she can't say a thing. She's the one who signed for the loan. It's her problem now." Lindsay huffed. "She's always been a guest with a wallet." And then Mom delivered the final blow, "She's not family anymore. She's just a sponsor." I didn't move. The bottle slipped from my hand, hit the grass, and rolled toward the mower. I didn't even bend to grab it. My entire body felt hollow, like someone had carved me out and left the empty casing standing. People imagine anger burns hot, but this wasn't heat. It was frost. Each word hardened into something sharp and precise. Right then, I stopped wanting to belong to them. I stopped wanting explanations or apologies. All I wanted was clarity and control. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I just sat at my desk, laptop light spilling over a pile of unopened envelopes, mortgage statements, repair bills, receipts stamped with my name. Every sheet was proof of the lie I'd been living. I opened my banking app first, then the spreadsheet I'd maintained for years. Line by line, I followed the trail of payments: mortgage, taxes, roof work, daycare, groceries. 4 years of what they called help totaled $211,724. The number didn't rattle me anymore. It grounded me. At 11:46 p.m., I cancelled every automatic transfer. The next payment was due on the 15th. Not this time. I typed a single message to my mother, noted. "Clever. But you overlooked one thing." No emoji, no sign-off, just a period at the end of a 4-year sentence. Then I began my audit. I dug through old texts, emails, photos, each one a receipt for their entitlement. I made folders: payments, bills, messages, audio. When I replayed the voice memo I'd accidentally captured through that open kitchen window, I renamed it Kitchen Truth. For the first time in months, I slept straight through the night. 3 days later, a thick white envelope slid under my apartment door. Inside was an invitation on gold paper: "Please join us in celebrating Elizabeth Carson's 60th birthday." At the bottom, a cursive quote shimmered: "A house is not a home without family." I laughed, loud enough to startle myself. I pinned the invitation to my fridge beside the printed spreadsheet. 2 shrines side by side, their fantasy and my reality. That week, I called my grandfather, William, the only one who ever spoke to me without expecting something in return. When he answered, I didn't bother with a greeting. "They called me a sponsor," I said. He let out a long, slow breath. Then I decided it was time they understood what happens when a sponsor stops sponsoring. He'd been right, revenge wrapped in fury wasn't what I needed. What I needed was accuracy. So I got to work. I printed every payment record and sorted them by month like criminal case files. I downloaded the audio clip. I saved screenshots from the group chat, the jokes, the memes, the laughter, my father's comments. I even pulled the credit report showing last year's system glitch. By the time I finished, my apartment looked like a miniature evidence archive. I wasn't planning to confront them. Not immediately. I wanted silence to sit with them first, silence that would make them wonder why the next mortgage payment never arrived. Because silence, as I'd learned, has a way of amplifying people. When they finally reached out, it wouldn't be to offer an apology. It would be out of fear. And that's when I'd remind them that the only thing costlier than betrayal is documentation. The night of the party, Chicago's air felt thick, as if the sky itself was holding a breath. I arrived 10 minutes late on purpose. The banquet hall glowed with gold and deep green, the same colors my mother always picked. She called them royal shades. Servers drifted between tables with champagne glasses. Everyone wore that tight, polished smile families use when pretending everything is perfectly fine. I paused at the entrance, watching. A slideshow flashed across a giant screen: vacations, holiday photos, family snapshots. When the image of the house appeared, people clapped. My mother's voice echoed through the speakers, soft, proud. Built with love, kept with trust, and now passed down with pride. Trust. The word crackled in my chest like static. I walked toward the front, my heels clicking on the marble floor. No one stopped me. Maybe they didn't think I'd actually come. Maybe they forgot I never missed a payment. Lindsay stood on the stage, smiling for the cameras, microphone in hand. "This home represents sacrifice and love," she said. "We've all worked so hard to keep it." I nearly laughed. Worked. I wanted to clap for the performance. Instead, I waited for the applause to fade and took 2 steps forward. The mic screeched when I spoke. I wasn't planning to say anything tonight, I began, voice steady. But since we're celebrating legacy, let's talk about what it really cost. A few heads turned. My mother's smile twitched. "Taylor," she said, warning edging into her tone. "This isn't." I lifted a hand. "I'll be quick." I reached into my bag and held up a small USB drive. "Can someone play this?" One of my cousins, curious, plugged it into the laptop connected to the projector. The screen blinked to life. First, only soft background noise. Then my mother's voice emerged, clear, familiar, and merciless. "She's not family anymore," she said. "She's just a sponsor." A wave of gasps swept the room. A glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered. My father shifted uncomfortably. Lindsay went pale. I didn't look at any of them. I clicked to the next file, a blown-up screenshot of the family chat. The meme of a man handing over his wallet. The comments: "Big sponsor energy." Then my father's message beneath it: "Keep the donor happy." I faced the crowd. This is what family legacy looks like in our house. Then I showed the final slide, my spreadsheet. Rows of payments, itemized and dated. Mortgage, taxes, repairs, insurance. The total circled in red. I said it quietly: "This is the price of your legacy." Silence followed. Even the air seemed to stop moving. My mother's expression hardened, then crumbled. "You're humiliating us," she whispered. I met her stare. "No. I'm spelling out the math." My father shoved himself up from his chair, his tone sharp. "You don't walk in here and shame your mother on her birthday." "Shame?" I answered evenly. "You mean like when you used my credit score to pull out a loan last year?" His jaw opened, then closed again. "I've got that paperwork, too." Lindsay rose to her feet, voice shaking. It was meant to be family support. We all agreed. I cut her off. "Strange, I don't remember signing that deal. I was too busy covering your bills." A ripple moved through the room, relatives whispering, glancing between screens and faces. My mother's hand trembled as she lifted the mic. "Families take care of each other. That's what love looks like." I stepped forward. "No, Mom. Families show gratitude. Love doesn't come with line items." The room fell utterly still. The slideshow froze on the picture of the house, its porch washed in warm light, that wooden "Home Sweet Home" sign rocking lightly. I looked at it, realizing for the first time how small it really was compared to everything I'd sacrificed for it. Then a voice I knew well cut through the silence. "Enough." Heads turned. My grandfather, William Robinette, stood in the doorway, cane in hand, eyes blazing through the crowd. He walked toward us slowly, the sound of his cane hitting the floor somehow louder than the murmurs around him. He stopped beside me, took the microphone, and faced my mother first. "You raised a thief," he said quietly, soft words that landed harder than a scream. He turned to my father. And a coward. Another wave of gasps. My mother's lips quivered. Dad, please. He lifted a hand. I've heard enough excuses, Taylor, he said, then turned to me. I read your message. You were right to stand firm. The entire room held its breath. Last week, he went on, I updated the trust. Lindsay's name is gone. The property and the family accounts, they belong to you now. Lindsay's mouth dropped. You can't do that. Grandpa didn't look her way. Legacy isn't granted at birth, he said. It's earned through behavior. And yours has been nothing but greed. The room burst into a mix of whispers and stunned silence. My mother's face drained of color, then flushed, then drained again. She looked like she wanted to scream, but no sound came. I took back the mic, my voice steady. You changed the locks, I said, repeating her message. But I changed the keys. I placed the stack of invoices on the gift table beside the birthday presents, turned toward the exit, and walked out. No one reached for me. No one spoke my name. The doors shut behind me with a soft click, the kind that feels more like freedom than an ending. Outside, the night air cooled my skin. City lights shimmered across the river, reflections scattering like pieces of something finally broken and finally mine. I pulled my blazer tighter and exhaled. For the first time in years, I owed no one anything. 72 hours later, the notification came. Incoming wire transfer, two amounts, $7 and $24. No sender name, no apology. Just numbers. Clean. Cold. Final. I stared at the total for a moment, then closed the laptop and released a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The silence afterward wasn't hollow. It was deserved. That morning, I made tea instead of coffee. No alarms, no calls, no messages asking for a little help. For once, everything felt even. I responded to their lawyer with one sentence. Transaction received. No further contact necessary. Then I deleted the thread. Later that week, I drove to my grandfather's home. He sat on the porch, tea in hand, waiting like he somehow knew I'd be there. They paid, I said. He nodded. Of course they did. Guilt is always late, but it still pays. We sat in easy quiet until he broke it again. Forgiveness needs accountability, Taylor. They haven't earned it. I know, I said. Peace doesn't require their permission. A faint smile touched his face. Now you sound like someone who finally understands what freedom costs. When I left, the sun was low and warm, laying gold across the porch. I realized peace never announces itself. It arrives quietly once the chaos fades. They changed the locks. It was the first useful thing they'd done for me in years. They changed the locks. I changed my life. And this time, the silence between us didn't sting. It felt clean. I used to believe family was something you earned by giving more and more. Now I understand that real love doesn't invoice you. So if you've ever had to draw a boundary with people who share your blood, remember this. You're not alone. Share your story below, and hit subscribe because somewhere out there, someone else is learning the same truth. I did. Peace isn't given,